Well, we want to write a program that basically reads a few numbers, and we don't know how many numbers the user is going to be entered. All we know is the last number is 0. And then we want the program to return the numbers that the user entered in reverse mode. So the best solution is to read the numbers, store them in a list, and then once we see 0, that means the end of the numbers, then we can reverse the list and simply print the list in the order that we want. Basically, we need a loop that inside the loop, we ask the user to enter a number and then append that number to a list, providing that the number is not basically 0. And we keep repeating that as long as user enters 0. So because we have repetitions here, we need a loop. Between loops, we have two options, for and while. With for loop, we need to know how many numbers the user needs to enter. Because we don't know that in this case, then we can't use a for loop. The option that we have is a while loop. So what we can basically do is, while the number that the user entered is not 0, keep asking new numbers and keep adding them to the list until the user sees 0. So first thing that we need to do is we need to initialize an empty list, because inside of a loop we want to say, hey, that list of numbers, append a new number if the number is basically not 0. So the list needs to be existed before we enter the loop. So we need to initialize basically an empty list, or we can just say this limit num list. And in order to initialize an empty list, we just supply or initialize the list with an opening and closing bracket without any items in the list. Then we need to read the first number. We assume the numbers are just float for now, or we used float typecasting. And then we can enter the loop while the number is not 0. First, add the number to the list using append, then read the next number. That's basically in our list. What happens in our loop? Note the order of the data. If you put this code, if you read the next number before you add it to the list, what happens is, first of all, you overwrite the first number, you ignore the first number that the user enters, and if the user enters 0, it's going to be included in the list. Then outside the list, outside the loop, all we need to do is just reverse the number list, and then we can simply print them. We can either just say print num list, that basically prints them. Let me just run it, 3, 6, 4, and then 0 in this format. Or if you want to each one of them to be in a separate line, instead of this, we can use just a simple loop to print the list member. In list, in basically num list, and here we're just going to print num. So this way, each of the list members will be printed in a separate line. So again, 5, some random numbers, and that's the solution.